Hallelujah. Remember that it is what? And always remember one thing about God. You can't promote yourself. You cannot what? You can't promote yourself. Look, it's like if you're a pastor, you meet a pastor who perhaps is a young pastor, just started a ministry, 20 people, 30 people in the place, or 15 people, sometimes 10, and he's calling himself apostle and bishop. Apostle of what? Or bishop of what? Hallelujah. When the time comes for you to become a bishop, you don't need to even call yourself. You will find out that people will put the title on you because you are. True or false? Else, the title will become like a guy name. Hallelujah. If you are not a pastor and you are behaving like a pastor and everybody know you are not a pastor, they call you also. Am I right? So everybody know that for that one, it's what? A guy name. But you can't call somebody reverend as a guy name. Can you call somebody reverend as a guy name? No. So when you serve in the house of God and you do the right thing, the time will come when God will promote you. And when you are really promoted, you don't need a title. Number 2, all of us will start life by taking care of other people's what? Business. Before I became a pastor in Trailblazers, I was a covenant leader in ICGC. And I was not even the main leader. I was just the assistant covenant leader. So you will see that before God will then make you a pastor and make you a founder of a church, where God is going to build a denomination under you, with not one church, not 2 churches, not 5 churches, not 10 churches, but God is going to put over 100 churches under your feet. He's going to watch the way you handle little things and little opportunities that comes in your hand. When I was in the charismatic renewal, I was also the treasurer of the charismatic renewal. I was also the treasurer of the covenant family that I belonged to as the assistant covenant family leader. And money was placed in my hand and I have to account for it. I used to be the one who would go there with mama and put the place in order. When my leader is not there, I'm the one to lead. So all those times, God was watching the way I was carrying myself about. So the same way, before God will give what belongs to you, God will put other people's thing in your hand. And the way you handle what belongs to others will determine whether God will give you your own. The Bible says, Jesus said that if you cannot take care of other people's business, why should you be giving your own? Which means that everybody has his own business, but God will never put your own business in your hand first. He will first put other people's business in your hand. And the way you take care, the way you carry yourself, and the way you handle other people's business will determine whether God will put your own business in your hands. You know, sometimes I see people working for others and they are lazying themselves. And I say, look at this guy without wisdom. Because you see, he doesn't know that whilst he's being lazy, he's developing a character and a culture. He doesn't know he's developing a habit. That same habit, later on in life, he will apply that habit and culture to his life. Hallelujah. And so as Christians, if you want promotion, you can pray all the prayers in the world. If you don't become a good steward of what God has placed in your hand, you will never receive promotion from God. You can work out your own promotion, but it won't last. But if you become a good steward of whatever God puts in your hand, promotion will come. As a nation, I believe strongly that there are more resources that God would have made Ghana discover. There are more resources that God could put in Africa. But the question is that the resources He's given us already, what have we done with those resources? And if we are going to prosper as a nation, we must become good stewards of the resources God gives us. If we are going to prosper as a church, if we are going to, God is going to move us to the next dimension as a church, we must be good stewards of what God has given us. You see, I believe strongly that God does not promote a church when the church is doing well. Promotion for a church actually happens when the church is not doing well physically, but the people are diligent with whatever they do. As a pastor, I believe that the test of my character is when I have only 5 people and I will still prepare my message and come and preach like I'm preaching to 10,000 people. That is when it is a test of my character. The test of my character is when I preach to children and yet I preach as if I'm preaching to presidents. And I take nothing for granted. I prepare as if I was going to address the stadium. That is the test of my character. Because when God was going to promote David, God watched how he handled himself in the wilderness. So God is watching the way we carry ourselves in the wilderness. And if we don't carry ourselves well in the wilderness, you will never come to the palace. A lot of people say they are waiting for their time in the palace so that they will give their best. You will never come into the palace. If you don't learn how to give your best in the wilderness, you will never taste the palace. If you don't learn how to take care of 5 sheep, 5 children, 5 members, 6 members, if you don't know how to love 6 members, God is not going to give you 20,000 members. Because the principle is, he that is faithful with little, more will be added. So as Christians and believers, if we want God to move us to the next dimension of our lives, if we want God to move us to higher heights, a new dimension, my question to you is, how are you handling the little opportunities, the little resources that God has placed in your hand? What are you doing with them? As shepherds, don't take anything for granted. Some of you have churches of 30 people, some churches of 20. That is when the test of your character comes to play. That is when God is watching you. How do you handle 5 of his sheep? If you cannot handle 5 of his sheep, why should he add 50 more sheep to you? If you cannot handle 35, why should he give you 350? So I believe with no shadow of doubt that God watches us most when we are nothing. Because it is easy to pretend when we are something. Hallelujah. It is easy to do everything right when you are going to speak to a big crowd. True of us. If you are going to speak to a 10,000 or 100,000 crowd, won't you prepare? Won't you pray? Won't you fast? Won't you research? You will. Because you know you are going to deal with a big crowd.